SCB Global is more than just a collaboration company. We are connecting businesses around the world with one conversation at a time. Welcome to the Team Me Up podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Team Me Up podcast. It's your host, Nabeel Mahmood, calling in from Hawaii. And today I've got Shams Khan, who's our Vice President of Research and Development, back on the hot seat today. Shams, lovely to have you today, mate.
Hello. Thank you for having me here as well, Nabeel.
Well,
But I have a surprise for you.
oh, brilliant. Yeah, what is that?
We're going to flip the script. You're not an interviewer today. You're going to be on the hot seat, and I'm going to be the interviewer today.
All right. Well, I mean, that doesn't really happen much. So I guess the stage is yours. The floor is yours. Let's see what you got.
So let's start with the first question, just to break the ice, as they say, right? How does it feel to be in the hot seat?
Yeah, it's a bit different. I mean, giving my show to someone else is it's a bit uncomfortable, but I guess I'm used to being in uncomfortable situations. So yeah, I'm willing to ride it.
That's good. That's a good answer. You get full marks for it.
Yeah.
So just to warm this up a little bit, right? So let's also learn a little bit about you, right? So tell us one surprising thing that you've learned from interviewing hundreds of technologists and, people from the industry, from our organization, from outside. Tell us something that you may have learned that is interesting that you could share.
One of the things that I've actually really learned is, people that we have interviewed on our platform in particular, that make a major difference are the ones that actually are able to communicate and get their message across, right? And one thing that really, really hit hard with me is the fact that if they are honest and vulnerable, their narrative comes across as very, very genuine. Yeah, I like that. And that's really hit a home run with me is, speak from the bottom of your heart versus trying to have a corporate narrative. And, a part of our story at SCB is as well that we speak from the bottom of our heart without a corporate narrative and pleasing people. We are trying to do the best that we can with what we've got, and we're trying to excel in our research development, our products and services. So that carries on.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So another one for you on the personal front. How did your personal journey in tech inspire you to get involved in nonprofit organizations or future focus side of things?
Boy, yeah, I mean, that's a bit personal, but we've talked about it. We've shared it over the course of my journey. So like anything, I fell into the technology sector purely by an accident. It was not a career by choice, a career by mistake is the way I look at it, but that ended up being my swim lane. It ended up being my passion. How does one get into this space in the non-profit and the philanthropy piece of the equation? I've had a few curveballs thrown at me. Over the last decade or so, I've had 3 heart attacks, flatlined a couple of times, legally dead a couple of times, went through major surgeries. That gave a different perspective towards life and what we're supposed to be doing here. As great as innovation and technology is to simplify the quality of life that we're living and improve the quality of life that we're living, I think the most important thing that we tend to forget because of the blinders that are put around us by the media pundits and society in general is people. The human capital piece is forgotten. The human intelligence piece is forgotten. We talk about, equity, inclusion. That's forgotten. We get too bogged down with the daily minutia of keeping up the networks or keeping up with the Joneses. How are you going to classify that? So if it wasn't for those life-changing events, I probably might be in the same situation that I was 10 years ago. So to narrow it down, the philanthropy piece and or the nonprofit piece really kicked in hard when I started to figure out what my purpose in life is and what are we supposed to be doing out here on this planet. for our friends, our families, and society in general.
That's quite deep and touching. And, not everybody can go through those personal challenges and circumstances with health and still stay strong. So kudos to you. And obviously a form of inspiration to many, right? Who generally, when they are hit with something that hard, they struggle to rise up. So
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like one of those things my dad used to say, you can look at the glass half full or half empty. So life throws curveballs at you, and it will continue to do so. You've got to learn from it and take positivity from it. These are all lessons to be learned. So, as a matter of fact, I was having this conversation late last night with one of my mates, and it's like, all right, others would have given up, and I chose to go this path of fighting against the convention or the norm, the so-called norm, and trying to be a change agent. So, yeah, I mean, the choice is ours. You can't just give up. You have to be the change in order to make the change.
I love that. So I want to know a little bit more, and probably for the people who dialed in or tuned in or maybe watching this for live, Nomad Futurist, the name, it's so compelling. What's the story behind it?
So we talk about globalization, right? I mean, I was in the Bay Area, in the heart of Silicon Valley, the tech sector, and we talk about globalization, the global economy, the ability to work globally, with data being at the foundation of it. But we have not actually ever practiced that. I've been a big advocate of digital transformation over the last 2 decades of my career in the sector, but we have just been talking about it. So as COVID hit, the idea to work remotely and everything digital transformation wise with teams and collaboration platforms that was talked about ended up becoming more of a norm. And the name Nomad really comes from the idea that you should be able to live anywhere and work from anywhere, right? I mean, the world is your opportunity. It's your playground. You can live in Hawaii, you can live in Dubai, you can live in Zanzibar, and you can still be connected and work. So the idea behind Nomad really was to establish that base that you're not limited to one geography or a location. You can be anywhere in the world and work, and that digital platform gives you that opportunity. And Futuristic really is, the way I look at it, what we have today is history, what we are working on is present, and we've got to live in the future, right? So if you look where we're at today, I mean, we're talking about brain-computer interfaces, right? Oh, it's the technology of tomorrow. It already exists today, right? We're talking about space exploration, putting infrastructures in the space or on Mars. Well, the technology already exists today, right? We've got to think through and process how we're going to streamline that whilst ensuring foundationally that we are laying a good enough foundation to continue on that versus making mistakes that have a higher impact as we move forward.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. So I also was looking, I'm aware and familiar with Nomad Futurist, but again, this one's for the listeners. Your mantra is really demystifying digital infrastructure. Let's try and, think about, I had my nephew come over recently, and he was, as you would want to know, and he's quite passionate. He wanted to see what should he do, right, in terms of his career. So if somebody like him was, 15, 17-year-old, this, let's say buzzword, what does that mean for them when they're looking to discover tech for the first time? Could you just explain that in plain English for them?
Absolutely. So, as you know, the entire technology sector is relatively new. I mean, we've really existed for about 4 decades, give or take, as a sector. As a matter of fact, the age is much less than that. That's potentially in cat years, because there was a vision 4 decades ago to streamlining about 2.5 decades, give or take. I mean, the birth of really internet is in the mid-90s when it mass marketed, got really accepted. So demystifying technology really it drives from the fact that the way that we are growing and where we're at today is becoming extremely complicated. And what we did, 20, 30, 40 years ago, foundationally, with just languages in general to where we're at today is totally transformed. And the layers of complication are getting, more and more, right? So what we are trying to accomplish is establish that base understanding of what the internet, just for the sake of conversation, what is the internet? How does it work? How do we move traffic? And get the basics to the user, right? So, I mean, if I start throwing acronyms out there like VoIP, what does that mean to 7.4 billion people that are not in this space? Well, that's something very technical. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, you've got XYZ disease as a doctor. Oh yeah, that's too bloody complicated, and I don't want to. I'm not smart enough, or it's above my head, it's above my grade, and I'm not going to make an effort to learn. So, you know, we are trying to simplify that language and get rid of those acronyms and get to the basics. Like, I mean, voice, telephony, moving on the networks, and what does it do really at the end of the day? Now, if we just look at the SCB history, for instance, right? I mean, from PBX, from the old copper wire carrying voice to voice being on internet protocol. I mean, it's the same thing. It's similar experience it was when, it was originally brought to the market, but the platforms have changed. And the platforms are a lot more complicated than they were, 30, 40 years ago. So it's, simplifying that for an average user to understand the basics of what these technologies are doing, how do they work, and where do they domicile.
So that ties nicely into the, we saw that there's Academy on Nomad Futurist just went live. Is it the case that this academy will provide potential skills or mindsets to graduates when they walk away with, like the way you just explained? Or is it something more that you're going to touch upon that you haven't touched upon just yet so far?
Well, it's a lot more than that, right? So you and I have had these conversations plentiful times, right? There's subject matter expertise and there are certain domains that we talk about, such as telephony being one, you got security another, you've got the physical layer, such as data centers, you've got the technology stack, you've got the application stack, you've got security, so on and so forth. So the way we have actually designed the academy is, starting at ground zero, understand all the basics. So starting from where is good dirt, right? You're going to ask me, Nabeel, what the heck dirt has to do with telephony? Right. Well, you've got to build a data center, right? So in order to identify good dirt, you've got to understand the basics, right? Where is good electrical, mechanical, structural? Do you have assets as it entails to water, right? Are the temperatures of the surrounding area the right temperatures to design, build, and operate data centers there? I mean, are we affecting the local ecosystem? What is the carbon footprint or the implications thereof? What kind of applications are we going to domicile there? What's the technology stack, so on and so forth. So everything from identifying good dirt into the user interface and user experience and things that surround it, whether it be security, finance, so on and so forth, would be the basics of the academy. And then based on users' interest, we will teach them vertical streams. So if someone's interested in telephony, right, we're going to start building and feeding them data so that they can upskill themselves. We've also divided the platform in 3 different categories. The way I define that is we've got K through 12 as a focus, we've got higher education as a focus, and we've got people in transition as a focus. So, a lot of these pundits continue to talk about the fact that we, as a sector, as a data infrastructure sector, are taking jobs away. Automation and AI is killing a lot of verticals. Well, in a lot of ways, we're creating a lot of those jobs as well that do not exist. So I tell people the town whisperer does not exist anymore. It's X, or it's any social media platform. And imagine the number of jobs that it has created from one person walking a block every day telling people what the city the city news, right? To now everybody sharing that news. Not only that, there's a technology platform behind that that's given them the ability to do so. So we're creating a lot more jobs than we think we are losing. So the idea is that we not only demystify, we educate and upskill people and potentially establish career pathways for opportunities that they're not aware of today that will exist tomorrow.
Sounds very exciting.
And just to add to it, Shams, just to add to it, the academy is going to be, it's a free asset, just like Khan Academy, for everybody globally. And we are currently working on career pathways as well to make sure that we can help people build a skill set foundationally, pick their swim lane, and then start working in their subject matter expertise and domains that they are interested in.
Mm. Super cool. Thank you for the work and the efforts, and more importantly, sharing that on this podcast today. So SCB Global, actually, also somebody that you're involved with, I'm involved with, and we've got involved
So
now.
you guys, we are supporters of the initiative, right? So
Yes.
that's kudos and thank you, SCB team, and really happy to have us on board and support and drive the narrative.
Sure. So I have a question there, and I want to hear your thoughts as well. So SCB Global naturally is committed to the next generation of tech professionals, be it education, partnerships, community involvement. So how important is it for companies like SCB or generally in tech space to follow such a path? What are your thoughts on that?
It's critical. It is critical. Before we get into the nitty gritty stuff, I want to make sure that we talk about this. A part of the reason of me doing this and SCB being a part of it is like, we got to put, what's the term now? Like, we got to put our mouth where the money is, right? Something like that. I want to say thank you to the SCB team, the leadership team and the board to continue to be a strong force behind this philanthropy after this charitable cause that, I initiated several years ago. So kudos and thank you for everybody voicing that and being an advocate for us, for the initiative. Talking about why is it important, I'm a firm believer in muscle memory, right? We can't fix people's attitudes or the way people approach life or what people do without education, exposure, experience. And I'm a firm believer of muscle memory. So, SCB is home for me. And the way I look at it is, if what I preach externally applies to in my organization, my initiatives internally, I've got a good base to leapfrog from. So, we are a good example whereby we are pretty much in all the six out of 7 continents. We never actually really at the board level get an opportunity to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion because it's muscle memory. We've got all colors, religions, beliefs, races represented in our organization. You talked about being nomadic. We've got a workforce that's global in nature, that gives us the opportunity to work 24/7, 365. A workforce that's extremely diverse, that gives an opportunity to be very inclusive and diverse in our thoughts, as well as ideas and research and development and developing products and services that takes other companies really, really long to come up with. So having that muscle memory is important, having that culture is important. And instead of just talking about it, to other organizations that are potentially listening to what we are talking about here, you've got to get rid of that mindset that it's just a checkbox. We've got to give people an opportunity. We need to hire for potential, not credentials. And we need to believe in people. So, yeah, it is critical. It is critical for our success, not just as organizations, but us as a sector.
Yep. I know I'm the one asking you questions, but because it's about SCB, I do want to touch upon something as my observation. Like you mentioned, global. Yes, we do, as a joke, I talk about it. We take global word in our name, truly, literally. But the reality behind that is what we learned, or at least I learned from an R&D perspective that I can share. When you bring people from different backgrounds and cultures, you're actually building something that is best of breed, because the way their life experiences, upbringing, thought process, maybe sometimes critical thinking comes together, it actually shapes the technology and what we are trying to do from a customer experience innovation standpoint far more than going through a box standard, typical classic approach of having everybody from one area. Not that it doesn't work, but for somebody who wants to be a disruptor, somebody who wants to think outside the box, requires, as you mentioned, potential of individuals versus having credentials of individuals be the basis and parameter to come up with something that the world has never thought of.
Exactly.
Okay, so in terms of the role of about tech companies like SEB Global and others, what role do you think they play in shaping the future workforce? I know we touched upon some of the things. Do you want to highlight anything specific beyond to what we have already spoken about?
What do they currently do? Is that what you're asking? Or what should they be doing?
Yeah, what role do they play, should they play as tech companies like SCB Global? We talked about AI and grid, you talked about DIRT, for instance. So what should be their role in shaping the future workforce?
I think the most important thing, and a lesson, I've learned from the who is who in the space, particularly Elon Musk. I mean, putting the personal bias or the political bias aside, the guys actually transformed the world globally. The idea behind everything that we own being intellectual property, he's challenged that status quo, how he goes about introducing technology and bringing technology to the market. There's no hidden secrets, right? I mean, if somebody can catch up and keep up, more power to them. So the idea to opening up enough to demystify, simplify, engage societies globally and educate them is imperative. So, for instance, us as well as an organization, one of the things that I absolutely love about what we do and how we do it is that we don't keep anything hidden, right? We are very transparent in our engagements. We are very transparent in our development as well with customers. And I think more and more companies should do that. That will help solve a lot of the challenges that we've got globally speaking.
Oh, absolutely. Totally concur with you. And especially organizations you touched upon earlier, corporate social responsibility or diversity. These should not be tick boxes. I absolutely agree with that as well. It should be beyond, as you said, from a philanthropy perspective, innovation, giving up potential opportunities to come and work. And naturally with the digital native scenario or digital world, this is only becoming far more possible. So absolutely, the technology and the workforce can start to see the benefits of it, but that can only happen if people are embracing such a change from a company perspective as well. Okay, so if you could give one piece of advice to a young person dreaming of a career in technology, maybe let's say feel unsure about it, because there's so much happening, especially now the whole buzz about AI, and we talked about AI taking jobs or automation and a variety of other things. What would that be for this, somebody who's a young person, again, going back to somebody who is very young, just coming out of school, high school rather, and looking into college, so what would that be?
I think the most important thing is the ability to identify what one's passionate about. Instead of, and I would give kudos to the current generation and the young people that their drive is not necessarily monetarily. Their drive is to contribute because they have been very fortunate to see what the carbon implications are and what's going on in our society, right? I mean, the quality of life has actually changed quite a bit. I mean, you and I have grown up with TV dinners, right? That was like the real healthy food that you're going to have, to now people really wanting to eat organic and healthy food, and the diets have changed as well. And that really came from education exposure. And I believe that younger generation is getting that right exposure because of the tools and resources that are available. So the advice is actually quite simple. Find your swim lane, find your passion, find what gets you excited. And it could be anything. As it entails to careers in technology, there's plethora of opportunities. I mean, you can be involved in tech yet in finance. You can be involved in tech. You can be involved in real estate. You can be involved in tech and you can be a marketeer. You can be involved in tech and talk about policies, right? So we are that one sector now that will help you find your swim lane. And there's all these touching points. Like you can do anything that you choose to find what you're passionate about. I mean, maybe political science degree, is the route you want to take. And then you can be a lobbyist to lobby data privacy and regulation and compliance. Maybe marketing is a career path that you want to take, and then you want to be the spokesperson and help us with the narrative. Maybe computer science or computer engineering is the route you want to take. That might narrow down one field, but you can be in telephony. You can configure collaboration platforms. So the most important thing is play around, touch technology, and find your game. Find your swim lane, basically. And at the end of the day, reach out to people, platforms like LinkedIn and others, and ask questions and engage. I believe the opportunity there is endless. People are willing to help. People are willing to be supportive. So no reason to be shy. If you've got a great idea, ask. People are committed. And this is, one of those times where I would say, like, we grew up with sayings such as like, oh, back in the day, or the golden times, or whatever. Well, that is now. The future is now. And where we stand today in 2025, we haven't even broken ice yet. This is the beginning of time. This is the beginning of technology. So you will be able to build the next metaverse. You'll be able to build the next LinkedIn. You'll be able to build the next Microsoft. Whatever it is, the opportunities are endless.
Sure. No, that is something I also totally agree. One thing I do see with the young generation, especially at least in my family, that I communicate and converse with is, there is hard work and smart work, but then sometimes people are tied and caught up into that because, things are there on the fingertips, right? With, like, at least 10 years ago, people have to go and Google search. Now you don't need to Google search. You use your voice command and you got ChatGPT and the likes available in abundance, or Copilot doing the same thing, for instance, right? So that is available. So you got to think how to utilize these things, but also being grounded to put the grind. And like you mentioned, choose a swim lane and the interest, drive your passion within that, and as you said, the world's your playground.
Absolutely. Then. I mean, it's a very simple analogy, Shams. The first Ford Motor T still got you from point A to point B. Though we are not driving 5 miles an hour, but we don't ride horses and buggies anymore, right? That experience of the Model T car has transformed into luxury and speed. So now it's your choice to enhance that and grow further, yet make sure that we're building safer environments. So the experience, the core foundational is the same, but we're moving at much, much faster speed. So do your research, do your homework, and ask questions, and find a mentor. I mean, there's plenty of people that are willing to give the time today to help the younger generation and people entering our sector.
Yeah. So, I want to ask you a couple of questions as well, going back to focusing on you, Nabeel, if I may. So you've got, your Nomad Futurist, and there's quite a lot of things that you mentioned. Who was your own Nomad Futurist growing up? A mentor that opened doors for you.
Who was my Nomad Futurist, or who was my mentor? Well, I mean, looking back at it, certainly my dad. I was probably not the smartest one to learn from it early on, but unfortunately after his passing, a lot of those things that he said stick hard with me. I mean, of course, there were several people in the corporate world that did help me, but I would say if I was to pick one, that would be my father.
Thank you for sharing that. Some quick rapid fire things, right? So the favorite podcast episode you've hosted? I'm sure it will be with me, but let's hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, you are a wonderful, wonderful guest. I would say my favorite podcast episode that I've hosted in the last 6 years would be Vincent Cerf, the father of the internet, surf the web, the guy that designed IPv4.
Favorite futuristic gadget?
Favorite futuristic gadget that potentially is not quite streamlined yet would be brain-computer interfaces.
Right. Nice. Very, very cool. So people who are tuning into this podcast, Nabeel, how can they get involved or support the work that you're doing?
Quite simple. Go to nomadfuturist.org. We could potentially put a link down here. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily just the monetary contribution that we are needing. We need the voice. We need people to represent us and be our advocates. We need that 1% from people around the world to get us to that 100%. And what I mean by that is everything matters. Everybody matters. People have subject matter domain expertise that are probably being lost because they're aging out. So share that tribal knowledge, share the technology that you have worked on and developed a core skill in that could potentially help somebody else. Identify yourself as a potential mentor to mentor that next generation. Like we talked about, that there's plenty of people to ask questions or to mentor. So identify yourself as a potential mentor to engage and encourage the young generation. Tell us what's happening in the world, like what's the latest and greatest. I mean, we need to start regulating and defining policies globally to ensure that we are on the forefront in writing those specifications and processes versus blind leading the blind. I mean, a part of the challenge that we continue to suffer as it stands today, whether it be at the application stack or the physical layer, whatever the case might be, is that when this gets into people's hand that do not understand the core of technology, they are defining policies and regulations to benefit them versus the sector, and then it becomes an uphill battle. So we need to have some sort of a voice or representation in that space. So identify yourself as being one of those people that can contribute to that narrative, and expose the sector to the broader audience globally. It's an opportunity to address the human capital deficit on a global basis. I talk about the fact that by 2030, we will be in about 1.6 million people deficit within the data infrastructure space. Where are those people coming from? That does not include the exodus that's happening right now as people are exiting and retiring because of silver tsunami, right? I'm potentially one of those people that are eventually going to be retiring within the next decade. So we need to prep for tomorrow, and the tomorrow begins today with people contributing. And find us out at nomadfuturist.org and SCB Global. You'll have all the details.
And I'm sure that the details are even to contribute to and get involved, all of that on the website, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, there's multiple ways of contributing financially, personally, professionally, in whatever capacity. That information is available on the website.
So thank you, Nabeel. I know this is your show, but thank you for being a great, candidate on the hot seat and giving me your seat and joining me on the Teams Being a podcast. It's been truly inspiring, jokes aside, to hear, your personal journey, story, some of the things that you shared here. They're uplifting. The work of Nomad Futurist, how it's shaping the future or striving to shape the future with SCB and other, like-minded organizations. Obviously, we share the vision. We are proud to stand alongside this mission and journey with yourselves, both in personal and professional capacity. And we look forward to empower the next generation of tech talent.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for having me. I mean, this is kind of really awkward. Like, hey, this was my show, and I'm saying thank you for having me. I'm going to take the seat back over here, folks. Shams, thank you again for driving this today. Really appreciate it. This was unexpected. Didn't really know where we were going with this. I had a list of my questions, but we're going to do that again relatively soon over here. So, folks, this is it. Very open, candid conversation with Shams Khan, who's known to throw curveballs, which he did, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you again, Shams.
Thank you very much as well. Take care.